So a lot of people ask me, what's the best time of year to transplant my Japanese maple? Now there's no one quick answer other than to say if we're taking it from a pot into the landscape, then any of the 3 growing seasons, spring, summer, fall, is a good time. It's the hardest thing to maintain, care for your tree properly in a pot versus in the landscape where the tree has, more opportunities to get the water, the nutrients it needs, as well as maintain cooler temperatures for the roots. Now that said, of course, everyone knows that you can grow a Japanese maple in a pot for many years, if not its entire life. But if we're talking about taking one from a pot into the landscape, then any time of year, fall is the most optimal because you don't have that hot sun on it, and the tree has an opportunity to work more on, focus more on growing roots versus new leaf production. So that's going to be the most optimal. Now, some people think, oh, you can't do it in the middle of summer. That is not correct. So right behind me is Acer palmatum versicolor. This tree is about 10 feet tall. This tree was living in a pot for many, many years, if not its entire life. And I transplanted it into the ground during the hot days of August this year. And the only leaf burn it had already occurred when it was in a pot. And so it's doing fabulous. The main thing is you put it in the ground during those hotter periods, it's just going to need more water, right, to maintain it until the weather sort of settles down. So that's the trick there. You can put it in during the hot days, but you have to be on top of it. You have to be watering it and mulching it and making sure that it's gonna transition through until it gets established. So the other thing is Japanese maples. They got a bad rap for being finicky. They're not finicky. There's a very small handful that are a bit more challenging, but for the most part, Japanese maples are actually pretty sturdy and bomber. Once they're established, they're actually really drought tolerant and very, very low maintenance needs in terms of nutritionally speaking. So it's a funny thing that they got that rap, but in my experience, and most people that have grown Japanese maples, they're going to tell you the complete opposite. So as far as keeping them in pots and transplanting, they're actually super hardy and tough. As I said, I did this one behind me, versicolor, in the middle of the hot summer. Now, the one exception to moving plants around during the heat of summer is if you take them from the ground and then put them somewhere else in the ground. Now, depending on how long that tree's been in the ground in that location, it can be very invasive and harsh to be kind of, digging at those roots and trying to get that tree. If you just planted that tree this year and then you go to move it to a new location because your existing location isn't working, different story. It's probably not as settled in as quickly, and so you're going to have a better opportunity to move that without too much disturbance and with that tree having a better chance of settling in again. So yeah, so actually they're pretty tough, a lot tougher than they get credit for. And yeah, so if you have any questions about that, email me through simplyjapanesemaples.ca. As always, like and subscribe, and to find our trees at simplyjapanesemaples.ca, and continue to watch our videos on our YouTube channel. And thanks for tuning in.